Let me then get to something, Paul, that happened on your show yesterday. I want to play a piece of sound from a guest that you had who was a member of the Minnesota Board of Regents. His name is Michael Shue, and he was talking about the possibility of the Power Five conferences breaking away from the NCAA entirely. Here's what he said.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Power Five, move away from the NCAA. I think it could happen pretty soon, within the next couple of years. I mean, it just depends on what everybody wants. Obviously, now the system's broken, and because of the pandemic, it may never get back to normal. So we're just in a place where the NCAA is broke, and I can't wait till they start asking the members for money, which is probably going to be within the next year.
That's what he said. Now, the Board of Regents chair, Ken Powell, later said those statements do not reflect the position of the Regents or the university. He said, I want to be very clear. There have been zero conversations among Regents, the university, or Gopher Athletics with respect to the University of Minnesota, much less any Power Five institution changing its relationship with the NCAA. But, Paul, because of the reach of your show, it was much too late. At that point, everyone was already talking about the fact that he had said it. So what do you think? Do you think that at the end of the day, Mr. Shue is right and that the Power Five conferences will ultimately break away from the rest of the schools?
I think Mr. Shue is right. And what we heard from the head of the Board of Regents was simply boilerplate. We get that every day in politics. We get it every day in sports. Greeny, until this happened, I thought we would be on a long road. What I mean by that is the pandemic. We would be on a long road to see this happening. But this is a once in a lifetime event for all of us. And I think this is the moment that a lot of people are looking around saying, why do we need the NCAA? I know the basketball tournament is important. I know all these other sports are important. But the people that sit at that table, the five Power Five commissioners, plus Jack Swarbrick, plus a few other people, run college football. The NCAA does not run college football. They lost that a long time ago. And I think they're seeing the ineptitude of the NCAA, especially of the leadership that currently exists. And I think we're moving slowly. When I mean slowly, maybe a couple of years. You can't do this overnight. But I think ultimately you are going to see a break.
Yeah, there may be no one whose opinion on this I actually am more interested to hear. If they were to break away from the NCAA, once they sort of got their footing underneath them, do you think things in college football would be better or worse?
I think they would be better because you would have the Power Five commissioners, the people that really matter, the people that contribute the large amounts of money into football, controlling it, versus a number of people who they have earned their spot at the table, but they don't have the same issues as Florida and Southern Cal and Notre Dame and LSU. So I do think because of that, they would be more lenient. They would be more amenable to player rights. Even though the NCAA decision came out last week, it's still being disputed. We still don't know what's going on because with the NCAA, Greeny, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. We never know what's going on.
Domonique, what do you think? If they were to break away and create their own, in its own way, it would be its own football league. It's not right, different from the NFL, but different from what it is now as well. Do you think it would be better?
I think the Power Five are already different. They just happen to be forced to exist inside the NCAA. And it's, 20 or so other conferences or 15 other conferences that are nothing like the Power Five. So if they separate, I think we're moving more towards them being a professional football league, which is what they already are now. And that, I think, is better for everyone involved. We can stop pretending like it's something that it's not and start to treat it the way that it is and hopefully treat the players the way that they deserve to be as the professionals that they are.
Why do you think, D. Wood, you were a star football player at Boston College, a first-round draft pick in the National Football League? What is your perspective on this?
Listen, I tend to agree with Dominique. Let's forget this whole charade, okay? To think that, bring up this word amateurism. College football is not amateurism. We're seeing it play out right now where you're talking about students not being on campus, where we're talking about playing college football games in empty stadiums. Why? Because of the money. Okay, the Power Five conferences, they're already acting like they're their own entity. They bring in so much money in this situation. So I agree with Paul. Let them move away from the NCAA, and I think they'll actually have the player, the student athletes' best interests at heart, not dealing with all the other crap that's going on.
Now, I happen to be on that same side as all of you in this, but I want to take the other side just so that we can present it in the conversation. Paul, there may be no one who talks to more passionate college football fans every single day than you do. So do you think you will start hearing from people who will call into your radio show and will say, if they start paying these kids, it won't be the same to me. It won't feel the same to me. If they are legitimately employees rather than students, and they could still be students, but you understand the distinction that is currently made, that people might see it differently, that people will say they won't feel the same way about college sports. What would you respond to that?
I would respond that the college fans that I deal with really don't care, Greeny. That ship passed a long time ago about caring what the major is and whether they get a degree. If you want a degree, you can get one if you go to college. But I mean, college football fans are crazy. I had one call in Monday night who said, he said, I don't care about this virus. I'm going to the game. I said, are you sure? I mean, what if you got sick? He said, I'm going to watch my team. In deference to LSU, I'm not going to mention what kind of fan he was.
So they're crazy, passionate fans. Nick or D Wood, Nick, I'll start with you. Is there anything to that? The idea that it just wouldn't feel the same to people. Like sometimes when I'm watching a college game, I view it differently than I do a professional game because I think of them as kids in a way that I don't think of as pros. And I think to myself, they're not getting paid. I'm a lot less critical, things like that. Do you think people would view it differently?
I think lots of people will view it differently, but I'm sorry. Like that's it. There are some things that there are kind of trade-offs in every decision you make. Right now, the trade-off to have it feel the way that people want it to feel is that many players are getting exploited. If the trade-off the other way is it feels a little different to a couple of guys, then I'm not losing any sleep over that. That doesn't bother me nearly as much as guys getting injured and then leaving college with no workers' comp, with pre-existing pre-existing injuries that they have no way to have health care for. Like that doesn't bother me as much as guys who are forced to take certain majors that they have no interest in because it has to fit into their football schedule. That doesn't bother me nearly as much as this other stuff. If a couple fans or a couple thousand fans watch the games and say, it feels a little different now that the guys are getting paid, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make to get closer to equity in college sports.